out. But I want to talk today about a lot of different things that are going on in the sports world. I had to kind of narrow it down because there's so much, and it's been a while since I came to you guys to speak. But I'm going to kick it off with what I think is a serious subject. I think a lot of people are taking it like it's a game or it's a small thing or something. Just that was cute, or that's like almost like harmless negativity. But I think it's much more than that. And I'm talking about fan behavior at these NBA games. Running on the court and throwing stuff at players and that sort of thing. It's really not anything new, right? This type of thing has happened before, but just like it is with most negative things in the world, because of social media and our 24/7, 365-day coverage from a news standpoint and from an exposure standpoint, everything gets magnified. And in some instances, that magnification is a positive. In some instances, it's a negative. In some instances, it is what it is. This is particularly alarming to me because the lack of awareness, the lack of just common sense that is taking place from some of these fans is just really, really startling. If you take into consideration everything that is going on right now in the world, in these games, in everything, when you look at what these people are doing, it makes it just that much shameful. So we're talking about an idiot throwing a bottle at Kyrie Irving. That if anybody follows me on Twitter and has listened to me in some previous videos and things like that, you all know I'm not a fan of Kyrie Irving. I feel like much of what he does and says is extremely contrived, and he comes from a less than genuine standpoint with a lot of things. I think he hops back and forth between trying to like stir a pot just to kind of scratch his own mischievous itches and actually doing something positive. And I think he kind of manipulates and crosses the line and mixes things a little bit too much, right? All of that said, throwing a bottle at him at a game is so ridiculously egregious, and I'm glad that that fan in Boston was arrested, and I think that's the right direction. But I still think there's more that can be done. We got a guy spitting on Trae Young at Madison Square Garden over 50 Cent's shoulder. I mean, it could have been over my shoulder, but over 50 Cent's shoulder is just, it's crazy. We got a dude running on the court in game 4 of the Wizards and 76ers playoff game or playoff series. Now, all this gentleman did was run and try to touch the backboard or whatever, but he's on the court doing stuff, obviously, someplace he's not supposed to be. And then this whole situation, this little sequence of events all started with an idiot pouring popcorn on Russell Westbrook. Now, you guys follow me, you know sometimes I criticize Russell Westbrook. I mean, I talk about how phenomenal of an athlete he is and ridiculously talented that he is. But I also point out the fact that he doesn't like critiques about his game. He doesn't like people pointing out anything and saying, hey, yeah, as great as you are, it's only part of the territory that when you are as great as you are, Russell Westbrook, people are going to ask you about your legacy and winning championships. That's just how sports works. But all of that aside, you pour popcorn on this dude. That is, I mean, at this point, here's where we are, right? If you, as a human being, cannot understand how fortunate you are to be able to come to a sporting event still in the midst of a pandemic, even though it looks like things are getting better because the vaccine and so on and so forth, and numbers are going down across the country, even though it looks like that. But we are just like months removed from not being able to go to anything, from not being able to appreciate anything in a group and in a crowd. And in the first instances of these large gatherings, you can't even conduct yourself like a human being. You can't not throw stuff. You can't not spit on somebody. You can't not run on a court and try to touch a bag. This is what so you lack this much self-control. And obviously, I know I'm not talking to all fans. I know we're not talking about everybody. right? But there's a battery being put in the back of these people to do these sorts of things. And the only way to really deter this type of behavior is that the hammer has to start coming down hard on the people who are proving themselves to be, as Charlie Murphy would say, habitual line steppers. This is what you are. You continue to step over the line, and you're not going to stop until somebody makes an example of you. Now, the Boston Celtics, what happened with the Boston Celtics fan that threw the water bottle at Kyrie? That person got arrested. That's what should happen. But all of this, oh, he's banned from a game, or he's man, look, listen. That is not enough. And you know why that's not enough? And I'm going to tell you why it's not enough. Because if Russell Westbrook had that popcorn poured on him, if he had ran into the stands and did to this gentleman what he was physically capable of, and a lot of y'all think y'all want it with these athletes. You think you want it until this dude gets up on you and you realize how big he is, how strong he is, and that he is spending year-round conditioning himself for high-level physical activity, and you've been at home doing whatever it is you've been doing. When 6'3", 200-pound Russell Westbrook gets his hands around your throat and starts squeezing all the popcorn kernels out your mouth, you're going to realize whatever it is that you drank that gave you enough liquid courage to do what you just did, you're going to realize you really don't want it. So if Russell Westbrook gets into the stands and beats the smoke out of this dude who pours popcorn on him, the punishment that he's going to get behind that is far more severe and far more impacting to his life than, oh, this guy got his season tickets banned. So what? He can still go home and watch the team. He can still go home and watch the team if he wants to. He can still go about his day. Nobody will really know who he is. He won't be this pariah. Look at what happened with Steven Jackson and Ron Artest. So Ron Artest gets somebody, throws a bottle at him while he's laying on the scores table. We're talking about the Malice in the Palace. He goes into the stands, fights the guy, which is pretty much the type of scene that we probably would have seen if Russell Westbrook had an opportunity to get into the stands to get to this person. We would have saw the Malice in the Palace all over again. Look at how that impacted Ron Artest's career. He got suspended for most of the season. He got shipped off as a pariah. I mean, if you remember at that time, Artest was on his way to being one of the best players. He was already one. I remember I spoke to an assistant coach of the Pacers at that time. His name was Ron Oliver. I spoke to him and he said, "Man, Ron is one of the best players in the league. Like both ends of the floor, everything considered, he is one of the best players in the league. It's like nothing he really can't do." But that prime of Ron Artest, I believe, was cut short, and a lot of it stems back to what happened at the Malice of the Palace, and that just shifted his whole entire career. You never know what's going to happen when you go into those stands. Anything can happen, but I don't blame someone for getting pushed to that point. If somebody's throwing stuff at you, hit you in the, throwing popcorn on you, spit on you, bro. Come on, man. This is insane. And there needs to be some more severe penalties levied on these people. This needs to be a felony. It needs to be a felony to come on the court and have any level of physical contact with these players. So I don't care if it's got to be felony. I don't even know if felony trespassing is a thing. Somebody got to tell me that in the comment section. Is there a way to make felony is there a certain type of trespassing that can be a felony? That's what has to happen, because people generally will respect a felony and they're going to weigh their options. Drug dealers have to weigh their options when they go out there and they still decide to do it because they figure the payoff is whatever. I don't think that you're going to see a bunch of people willing to risk getting a felony for trespassing. Something needs to happen that the penalty for these transgressions has to be stiffer than simply talking about your season tickets or you're banned from this stadium. And even a regular common arrest. I don't want anything to happen to these people that they get to put on their social media and try to make light of it and try to use that to try to gain some level of notoriety or to get some other sort of dopamine effect off of it. Everything I'm gonna quote Usher. Everything that comes from this should be all bad. All bad. Nothing good should come from this if that's what you're doing. It's ridiculous. It's an abuse of privilege. It's an abuse of access. And to put it to the most simplest forms, you're ruining it for everybody. You're literally ruining it for everybody. You suck, and you really should stop. All right, so let's move on. I didn't want to go on too much of a rant on that, but I knew that that was going to bring that out of me because I'm telling you, man, what's going on with these people is just ridiculous. Running on the court and throwing stuff at people. I mean, how punkish are you, man? Like, for real.